Please welcome Gareth Jenkinson, representing Cointelegraph. We have Miko Matsumura, Gumi Cryptos Capital. We have Robby, of course. We have Jonas, Jünger, Binance, and João, Leite, Polkastarter, Poolside.
We'll go with the photos. Hey.
Robby right in the middle.
Over to you. Enjoy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gareth Jenkinson. I'm from Cointelegraph, journalist there. I've been writing for them since 2017, so fair to say I've seen plenty of ups and downs, and it's a great pleasure to be hosting this panel this afternoon with a bunch of industry experts. And I wanted to start off this panel with a little bit of a story just to paint the picture between a bull and a bear market and how brutal it can be. Back in 2017, I started writing for Cointelegraph as a freelancer. My background is sports broadcast and journalism in South Africa. And I found myself writing for Cointelegraph, and back then we used to get paid in Bitcoin. So I started writing 2 or 3 features every month from about June onwards, and I started accumulating some Bitcoin. And my wife and I were getting married in early 2018, and I thought, this is fantastic. I'm saving up some good money for my honeymoon. Things are looking up, and as we all know, Bitcoin hit $20,000 in 2017, right at the end of the year. And then I got absolutely wrecked. Early 2018, January, February, we know how rough it went, very sharply down from 20,000. And let's just say that we had to put our honeymoon on hold, and we finally got to do something we wanted to do a couple of years later. And that really is the contrast between a bull market and a bear market. And I think we're at the converse right now. We're in a situation where things are looking up, and we are exiting a very long and brutal bear market. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Is the crypto bull market finally here? And without further ado, I'm just going to hand over to you guys to give a very brief introduction of who you are and the companies that you represent, although they don't need much of an introduction. Miko?
So before I do that, I actually have a question for you, which is, did you say to your wife, you haven't lost money if you don't sell?
Yes, exactly. So I held the Bitcoin, and I gritted my teeth and waited a couple of years and made good with that.
That's good, and you really need to sell the blow off top, not all of it, but enough to do like a second or a third honeymoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Really make her feel awesome. My name is Miko. I give Bitcoin sales advice. I give marketing advice. I also give venture capital advice. I'm a VC, as well as marital advice, apparently. So I'm a managing partner with Gumi Cryptos Capital. We're currently deploying $110 million fund into what I hope will be a continued crypto winter, but I'm actually afraid that I can actually save us time on this panel, which is crypto winter coming to an end? Yes. Robby?
Hi, I'm Robby, Animoca Brands. And yes, I would say we might have more actual winter than crypto winter left this year. But anyway.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Jonas. I look after the DACH region for Binance and our crypto business in Europe. I've got sorry, Gareth, I got to pick you up on the marriage story. My marriage was in 2017 and also partly funded by Bitcoin, but it was in a slightly better. And our honeymoon was sort of a round the world trip. So maybe the second one.
Yeah, you got lucky with your timing. I was a couple of months too late.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So wait, the wedding was funded by Bitcoin or the entire marriage?
Dum, 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 dum. We leave.
But how did you both find women who like Bitcoin?
Yeah.
She had no idea about this.
Yeah, exactly. My wife.
Otherwise she would have run away.
It's a hard conversation when your money not even halves, but 3/4 in value.
But I think the answer to the panel question's already being answered to some extent, right? Because we're all so far pretty jovial, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're up here having a
also
good time.
you have to be in the face of a winter.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, that's another way.
João, over to you quickly. Oh, no microphone. You guys are going to have to share.
We can share. Yeah. Hi everybody. I'm João from Portugal. So I work at Polkastarter and Poolside. So basically, we are a fundraising platform where we help exciting projects raising funds and at the same time giving opportunity to retail to invest in exciting projects. If it's crypto winter coming to an end, I mean, I think yes. We still have a lot to go for, but I think we are getting to a spring kind of mode closing by. So I think next year will be exciting for everyone, but not financial advice.
I have plenty of burning questions, but I think just to start this panel off, is crypto winter coming to an end? The key question for me is, what metrics do we look at to really decide that? I mean, is the price of Bitcoin the leading factor in how we're all feeling? Because like you say, Miko, I think everyone after Bitcoin hit 42K yesterday, I was like, oh, this is feeling bubbly.
Yeah, so I'm actually from the United States, and we actually have a tradition in the US where it's based on whether actual winter is coming to an end. And the way we determine that is something called Groundhog's Day. And what they do is they have a specific groundhog whose name is Punxsutawney Phil. And he actually comes out of his hole and he looks, and if he sees his shadow, right, then basically like winter is going to continue for many more months, right? So I think as far as quantifying whether crypto winter will come to an end, I think we should get like a honey badger and see if he can see his shadow, right? Because I'm kind of jokingly saying that it's really impossible to quantify, but I think it's our job as panelists to kind of like reflect our mood and have you guys read us and be like, do these guys feel loose? Like, does it feel warm or does it feel kind of like icy here?
I think maybe I can give a contrast of two events. So I went to an event in Texas. I went to Permissionless this year for the first time because I hadn't been to a DeFi event before. Whereas most of my colleagues from Hong Kong, where our headquarters is, went to Token 2049 because these were the same weeks.
So different.
And the mood could not have been more different between the two. So a lot of, I think, how you perceive what's going on in the market depends on, what's going on around you. And I think in Asia, I don't know that the winter has been felt quite to the same extent.
I think for us as exchange, the price itself is not the thing that motivates us or that drives us. What drives us is a stable platform where people can trade. Doesn't matter whether it goes up and down. But really what we're after is user adoption. And when you see, user numbers going up, this is what motivates us, this is what drives us. The price will follow how people will assess this asset, or what they're willing to buy and sell it for. That's not so much our thing. Our thing is more the driving adoption, getting more users into the crypto scene. And yeah, for example, we launched the Web3 wallet recently, actually more a DeFi product than a centralized product. Yeah, you find it in the Binance app, which is strange, yeah? But we're trying to drive that adoption, and it's not about the price, but if the price helps to attract more people, we're more than happy with a very good price.
João, is it kind of the same with Polkastarter in terms of looking at users and the amount of investments that are being made through the platform?
Yeah, definitely. It's a big change. Not only in quality of projects, I also, if we need, like Miko was saying, it's very hard to quantify something like that. But in terms of quality of projects, actually users caring about investments, again, definitely a big difference now. I would say that things get a bit boring and low quality, but out of nowhere in like 1 or 2 weeks, suddenly there is like 10 or 20 good projects. And I guess like we need to appreciate the winter to appreciate the summer, right? Like, of course we all love summer. I come from Lisbon and I'm trying to adapt the Berlin weather still. It's pretty cold. But winter is amazing. It's a very good time to actually connect with the right people, work in what matters and not be filled with speculation and so on. So I do think it's kind of ending, but it's also very positive. So I don't separate both, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we can stay with you just for a moment, and you chat about a crypto winter. I think most good investors will tell you like your fortune is made in a bear market, right? When prices are down and things are fairly cheap, as it were. João, have you seen that kind of play out a little bit, especially with initial decentralized offerings, which people can launch through Polkastarter? I mean, was it a good opportunity for investors to tap into the platform and potentially get some slice of the pie of some projects that might really boom in the next year or two?
Yeah, so we had a pretty different approach of other so-called fundraising platforms. So we completely stopped the launches because we didn't see any demand, and also the valuations were still pretty crazy. So we decided to protect a bit our users and focus on the foundation, which is we launched Poolside, which is an accelerator. So we basically work with projects and founders for the past 1 year or so, and we push a lot of content, which I think the winter is also a good time to reflect your mistakes, what you did in the summer. I think it's a perfect time. It's when there is less noise. People can actually take time to actually understand their investments, understand the risks, and not like just invest in random meme coins and shit coins. So we heavily push the content and also fundamentals of the projects we launch. I do think it's important. A lot of projects are coming back, and it's amazing opportunity to buy in good valuations, much better even than BC valuations. But of course, you need to check the teams, check their progress, and see how they navigate this kind of winter. So.
Miko and Robby, I'm very curious as to how you guys have viewed the last 2 years, the bear market in general, and if you're expecting to see a lot of fruitful things come from a tough couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like, one of the really amazing phrases that, came out of what Jonas was saying about sort of the Binance philosophy on price action, right? Which is, at the very tail end, you said something along the lines of like, oh, we're happy incidentally to see a good price, right? Which is nice. It's a good posture and a good position, but it's kind of reflective of the craziness of the space, right? Which is that there's a really wonderful meme, not reflected on you at all, but the craziness of the space is reflected in a meme where where degens are basically like, oh, like Bitcoin, like 2K. It's like, I don't want to buy, right? Like, it's like, oh, and Bitcoin 60K, it's like, oh, I must buy, like I have to buy, right? And so it's just such an insanity, right? Like it's super incredible. Like, if you're buying like a lawnmower, right? Then you're like, oh, what's a good price for a lawnmower? Good price is a low price. That's what a good price is. So, but I definitely think it's inherently in the space. And obviously I should throw it to you since I invoked your name. So,
No, but it's, yeah, but it's about the sentiment of the people, right? And it's about the sentiment that people have, and maybe at a price of 2,000, they didn't feel as good as when the price was 60,000. So it wasn't about the price at all. But if for us as platform, very retail driven, so it's a very different environment to a VC environment. And we had, throughout crypto winter, we had launch pools all the way. We had them all the time. And we used them actually for a lot of BIDL projects, if you want. Yeah, we used them for a lot of infrastructure projects. Sui, Say, they all came along on launch pool during winter. And a lot of people should be more on the happier side with what they got from the launch pools. So, yeah. People, of course, ask me for investment advice all the time because they somehow think because we're building an exchange, we know the market. We're not the traders, we're the infrastructure providers. But yeah, the best advice we can give is HODL. So buy it when it's 2,000 and just keep it.
Robby, how the 2 years? I had a very interesting conversation with Yat last night, so
Okay.
I'm quite curious to hear what you thought about these 2 years.
So I think the last 2 years have been definitely challenging. I mean, for us, we've been around for a while. I mean, we've been Animoca brands for 14 years, and we've been in the same office space for 23 years. So it's not our first sort of bear market. And frankly, it's like our third in crypto. So I think we're used to this. We actually came from just game development before that, and game development's not any easier. If anything, it's harder, to be honest. So I think we're used to adversity. So these are just opportunities to really, kind of put your head down and remind yourself what running a rational business is like, because I think when the market gets away from you, you may have tendencies to overspend a little bit just because you feel like there's competition in the market. Talent can become quite expensive, and you can get involved in an arms race of adding on expensive talent, which you then need to relieve yourself of when the market turns. And it gets quite ugly. I think for us, we're very fortunate that we've always looked at this as the next evolution of our business since we entered the space. And so we don't have a time horizon for it. This is just what we do. And so, we're going to be here next year and the year after that, regardless of what the market does. So we just try to be careful about what we spend.
That's what I was going to say. I guess you just have to be more discerning when you see the markets are down, right? I mean, Is that the approach?
Yeah, well, and also if with my investment hat on, it's actually incredible because everything gets cheaper, as we talked about, and you get to be more choosy because you're not elbowing out other investors because there's less investor competition. So you get to take your time and do more due diligence. And so that part actually is really great.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about the height of the bull market, right? And you would get entrepreneurs in and they would be like, okay, well, we really hope you guys can join our round. We're going to have term sheets on Friday. And then we would say, but it's Thursday, and so I think what Robby's saying about you actually can think, you can actually read things, right? Which is I like thinking and reading things, it's in some ways related to how I got into venture in the first place. So I just see the benefits of it. Now, I do think if you've read things in the winter time, and I think you were reflecting on this a little bit, right? Which is that if you do the work during the winter time, then the summertime, it's actually easier just to pull the trigger really fast over and over, right? Because you actually now have an understanding that can carry into the summer cycle.
From a macro perspective, I mean, a lot has been made of the Bitcoin halving that's coming up, and obviously Bitcoin, in terms of market cap, is still, it's the big player, right? More than 50% of the market is Bitcoin. The halvings, there's just less and less Bitcoin now. How important is this halving in comparison to the last three?
So I wanted to comment. So yesterday I gave a morning keynote and I described, actually it was a metaphor that I don't think landed because it's a strange one, which is there's in medieval siege equipment, there's a tool called a battering ram, where you basically get a tree log and you just rhythmically smash it into a building or into a bridge or whatever, or a drawbridge. And basically the halving is the rhythm, and it's every 4 years we swing the club and we smash, right? And so the thing that's really funny is that 4 years is long enough that the people inside the castle think we've gone away, right? They're basically oh, thank God the barbarians are gone. And it's no, we're just swinging the thing again, right? So the thing that's funny about the idea of it is that time sequencing of 4-year cycles is effectively like a Thomas Schelling coordination without communication, right? Which is we're all just going with the rhythm of the 4-year halving cycle. And the reason why this is so important to think about it as a psychological training phenomenon, right? Because each time it works, it inclines people to go with it the next time it happens, right? But the thing that's really amazing is if you model it as stock to flow, the actual cut in supply is getting smaller and smaller, right? So the actual mathematical economic effect is smaller and smaller, but you can't actually do economics without doing psychology, right? So if you think about the training effect of seeing this happen time and again, that's what I think is going to matter. So it's a fairly circuitous way of saying it's going to be big.
Yeah, I mean, it's 12.5 to 6.25 now. I mean, like you say, every time it comes around, it's half, but when it's half of a half of a half, it gets less and less of a cumulative effect. But I mean, as a journalist reading and writing about this every day, there does seem to be a different psychology this time around as 2024 looms, Jonas, maybe you can weigh in on this as an exchange and, in terms of volumes and how people are trading Bitcoin in particular.
I mean, Bitcoin is way older than Binance, of course. I mean, I see the halving more of a psychological event, really, quite a lot, because it's, I mean, we're all used to money. We're all used to spending euros, dollars, pounds, whatever it is, right? But who's ever heard of, hang on, they're going to halve the money supply now? I mean, it's just such a foreign concept to everything with fiat money that every time it occurs, it's just such a celebration of we're doing something completely different here, completely against what everybody else or how currency and economics used to work or how they were dealt with. And it's just such a completely different event. It's completely pre-timed, right? Everybody knows the blocks when it's going to happen. Like it's it's just the supply all of a sudden is cut in half. It's completely crazy, right? Compared to what else is going on in the Fed and all of the other economic theories. It's just so different, and that's why I think it's such a big psychological event. But yeah, it's quite a phenomenon to me. I mean, I still remember the first halving, and I was just reading up on it, and all the geeks were freaking out, and now everybody who's sort of investing in crypto sort of understands halving, what it is. And I just want to make one more comment. The other flip side I see of it is that on the economic phenomenon is that all of a sudden you have cryptocurrencies that don't grow anymore at all, right? They've been created, and actually they get burned. So they get reduced. So completely different to what normally fiat management in economy works. So yeah, more of a psychological thing.
João, does it have any bearing on some of the smaller companies that you're involved with?
Yeah, again, it's definitely psychological, right? It's another, I won't say excuse because it's actually a huge excuse, right? But it's narrative driven, right? It's something that everyone knows, right? It's nothing new, but it's something to use it as a, not catalyst, but something to kind of get away of the crypto winter, right? So everyone kind of expect them, and again, I think the market kind of moves, and we were initially talking about finding a reason, what is the signal and so on. Like most of the times it's not the signal, things just go with the flow, and you just need a few reasons, a few things for people to talk about it. Now we have halving, now we have ETF, and there's other things coming, I'm sure. So again, it's more psychological. You can put a very fancy mathematical model, but in the end, it's humans that actually do stuff. So that's my opinion.
I do want to contribute to the economic and intellectual discourse. So I wanted to offer a mindset, which is that the decoupling of the US dollar from the bimetallic standard by Nixon administration in the 1970s was actually considered one of the harbingers of the emergent Keynesian dominant model of so-called modern monetary theory, or MMT, right? So I actually think that this idea of deflationary or decreasingly asymptotically less inflationary currencies like Bitcoin are actually part of a postmodern monetary theory, so PMT. So I just want to toss that out and hopefully it catches on.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's read, go for it, Robby.
I was going to say, one thing I can say is we have we have like 12 game studios and over 500 investees now. And I can tell you, we actually, as far as I can think, only have 2 that directly work on Bitcoin out of that entire ecosystem. We're basically an EVM business, right? And yet Bitcoin is very, very impactful on what we do. And it's similar, I think, to being any kind of business where interest rates, employment figures, these big macroeconomic signals have an impact even if they're not directly impacting you. And so for us, I think Bitcoin's very similar.
So just a quick comment before I throw it back, which is that I like to say that Bitcoin is our central bank, right? But with that in mind, I think of Ethereum as our investment bank, right? And so if you think about ERC,
Because that's where all the bankers are.
ERC effectively becomes something more like NASDAQ or something, right? And if you look at it from that lens, the thing that's really interesting is that means logically that Bitcoin should not have a price to earnings ratio, right? It should, like gold does not, right? But whereas something like Ethereum could have something like a PE ratio, the thing that gets exciting about that is that does that mean Ethereum runs to like 10, 20, 30x of its current size as a function of this PE ratio construct? Robby likes it. So anyhow, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Robby, you just mentioned that. I think you said maybe two projects that are touching,
Which are basically doing ordinals.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Rod Armour invented ordinals this year. Does that change your approach to Bitcoin and the blockchain? And do you see the potential of more growth there in terms of what you guys are doing?
Yes, except I think ordinals is a very, very, again, like everything Bitcoin, it's very specific and focused. Whereas building on Ethereum, it's a blank slate and you can do anything with it. So I think there are limited applications for Bitcoin. I mean, frankly, I've seen people build really cool things on Lightning. It's great tech, but I haven't seen an ecosystem that can really support that yet, the way there is an Ethereum ecosystem.
I think Bitcoin ETFs is obviously the big consideration, especially when it comes to hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of institutional investment that's, so we're told, is waiting on the sidelines in early 2024.
I can give you a reference point for that. The fee income, annual fee income from Bitcoin ETFs is estimated to be $10 to $12 billion a year. That's just the fee income for people who don't just put it on a ledger.
Yep. Exactly. So I mean, it's massive, right? Do you think people are ready for what could potentially happen? I mean, like Cointelegraph, we erroneously tweeted out that ETFs had been approved, and it was just a mistake from our side. Everyone makes mistakes, but we
not an investment advice.
Yeah, no, we had a brief glimpse of what that news could do in the flash of 5 minutes in terms of price appreciation. When the news finally comes out, and we're being told by Eric Jonas and those kind of people that are right there with Bloomberg, ready to break the news when it happens. What is going to, no one has a crystal ball, but what's going to happen? Jonas?
Yeah, I wanted to tell you on the price spike, for us, actually, these kind of events are critical in running the exchange, right? That's when you make it or fail in terms of providing the underlying infrastructure. And these kind of events, especially if they're unpredictable, like a news that goes out there or something and it just happens and you see the green wick. But in terms of operating the exchange, actually that's quite tricky. No? I see in the ETF discussion, I see something else actually fundamentally changing, and that's for consumer protection. Because all of a sudden with this ETF vehicle, you will have no longer sort of synthetic financial instruments that reflect the price of the Bitcoin, but you have actually spot, and it's all secured, it's all in custody. And I find for the user, that's a much better and much more propelling proposition. And if some people make this a great scheme and manage to collect fee from this, so be it. It's a great vehicle that protects consumers better, I find, and this can really help us drive a lot more investments. And if a lot of people find a good way of doing this, then they should be earning some fees for this. Sure.
I do want to comment on consumer protection. I was actually having a really interesting conversation with Robby's partner, Yat, about exactly Bitcoin ETF, right? And he had a really interesting orthogonal point to make, which is effectively that the yield and rates environment on the prime lending is effectively such that the leverage ought to be a little bit less. So we ought to have a much more greenfield running room, which I think is a pretty exciting potential, right? But the other thing that I think was really interesting about the conversation is we were actually talking about what I proposed to be the third Keynesian animal spirit, which is effectively the honey badger, right? And it's really the untamable contrarian nature of Bitcoin, right? And the thing that I think was super interesting about the conversation is that Yat actually refuted and said that the BlackRock ETF will tame Bitcoin, right? And it's going to tame Bitcoin as a function of the sheer volume of it. And that the actual model of how do you tame a honey badger, how do you do it, right? And the conclusion we came to is you feed it and you feed it and you feed it
and it gets fat.
And it just becomes like 6 times its size and it just takes a nap, right? Like that's how you tame a honey badger. So that was an interesting conversation.
We've seen, obviously, the whole FTX story kind of put to bed. Sam Bankman-Fried has been incarcerated now. I had a great conversation with Binance's new CEO last Friday, and if you haven't read that article, you can check it out on Cointelegraph as well. Richard was very, very open and honest, as much as he could say about the settlement and everything, but that is also, in a lot of people's minds, appeased any investor sort of sentiment about worry in the markets. Mm-hmm. That also lends to this narrative that crypto winter is coming to an end, right? We've seen these big legal cases kind of being settled now.
I did want to add to the kind of pile, right? Which is that, it seems like the direction, for example, that the Celsius bankruptcy is going through, that people will begin sort of the withdrawal process probably in Q1 of next year. So January is projected, right? So like that's another overhang, right? So I just want to say like there are definitely overhangs that are being cleared, right? And, in a sense, in an earlier panel, we were talking about I think Robby was the one who contributed this meme, which is essentially that it isn't actually how it turns out, it's the clarity, right? So it's a lot more about, we just want to know. We want to know what the rules are, and we don't want it to be murky, right? So good or bad, like clarity is the best. So that's where we're going.
Totally agree. Well, because, I'm going to pick on Binance, unfortunately, because you've got a big profile, but there were people talking about rumors that it's all a scam and that it doesn't really exist. Obviously that's absurd. But the rumors exist. So how do you put the rumors to bed? You need clarity. And now we have clarity, which is great. I think it benefits everybody.
Yeah, have you seen that, Jonas, in terms of how the business is operating in Europe as well? Sorry, João.
I think the clarity is also for every single Binancean, everybody of our community. It was what was needed for sure. Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if they also solve Mt. Gox finally at the same time? That's sort of coming now as well, right? It's supposed to be, so maybe it's all happening at the same time.
Well, we just solved Ripple, so.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. The clarity is what we're always looking for. And look, Richard is a great guy. I work for him for a year now or so. He's my boss. And one of the major reasons why I joined Binance was because he's got that, mindset of and knowledge and understanding of what's a regulated business, what does it take to do it, how do you bring that certainty, because that's what the regulation does. And we're very much looking forward to, for example, things like Mika, that's going to bring even more clarity into the space. So yeah, for sure, this clarity is good.
João, maybe we can just chat a little bit about 2024, what it holds for some of the smaller companies in the space, because Polkastarter deals directly with these smaller startups.
Yeah, so it's a bit hard because a lot of companies, and compared with the 2017 cycle, which anyone with a shitty website with that particles effect and white paper could raise 10, 20 million. The last cycle, most companies raise 1 or 2 million, right? Doesn't last long, right? Robby was saying that winter, definitely you need to cut your costs. Every penny is useful. And a lot of companies didn't do that. They got in the bull market euphoria. They overspent. They didn't actually build a treasure, which is super, super important. When your token goes very high, you should sell. That's the whole point of what you call it, marketing tokens or ecosystem tokens, because you really want to assure that you are here for the next years, which, again, the key word on the winter is surviving, right? So unfortunately, a lot of projects couldn't survive, right? But the ones that survived this winter, they will excel, they will bloom for sure in the summer, right? So we tend to advise a lot that in bull market, everyone is happy, everyone is excited, but yeah, just have a long-term mentality. I think that's very, very important. Make sure everything is is paid. Make sure that you have a runway for a few years. And if you get to that point, just focus on building, and that's the most best state you can have, because you don't want to stressful with money. Trust me. And we saw a lot of founders actually break and having burnouts because, again, it's pretty stressful having a token in a market, and then when it goes up, you have the so-called best community in the world, and then when it goes down, they go ask you when Binance, for example, right? So,
yeah, I think maybe we can just quickly touch on Miko, because it'll have a profound effect on the way things are going to happen in Europe, and it's going to come in stages next year. Jonas, your thoughts on that? And Richard kind of touched on it in our interview last week, that it provides a level playing field for the crypto ecosystem in general, and a company like Binance can perhaps branch out a little bit more with level sort of regulations that apply to the 27 member states.
I think the level playing field in Europe is going to be fantastic. That's going to be really good, and it's not just Binance. I mean, it's the whole crypto ecosystem that benefits from it. All of a sudden, from one European country, you can operate in the whole of the European area. It's fantastic. It broadens your whole market, and I think we as Europe, it's going to enable good things here. Of course, we as Binance are preparing for it. We're looking very much forward to it. The details need to be ironed out, and as a German, I always say the devil is in the details. So you got to make sure it's all solid. And but yeah, we're very much looking forward to it, and are fully involved in the process of how the details, how we can share our expertise in the detailed definition. I think it's going to be great for the whole ecosystem in Europe. Let's see what the US then does afterwards.
Robby and Miko, does it mean anything to you guys? I know the market is primarily Asia, is a big focus, obviously the US as well, but does Miko do anything for venture capital funds like yours?
I think for us, really, the most important thing that more regulatory clarity gives around the world, one of our big focuses is trying to help differentiate from a legal perspective that Jonas and I are both in the Web3 industry, but we're not remotely in the same business, because he's very much in a financial services sandbox and I'm an entertainment company. But yet we all got painted with the same brush because we're in Web3 from a regulatory standpoint, and that's actually the problem we have in the US particularly. So I think the more that we can get clarity on the fact that Web3 is a very diverse world and there are different parts that need to be regulated differently, I think that just shows that the sector is maturing and it's good for all of us.
I think just briefly, my comment is I'm very excited about generally any regulation that kind of paves the way for global stablecoin adoption, right? And I think it's low-hanging fruit for a lot of countries within broader frameworks, right? That's a very logical next step and probably the easiest thing to regulate. So, that's going to be extremely powerful and beneficial.
João, I saw the mic go back your way. Any thoughts on Mika and what it means?
Yeah, I mean, again, touching on clarity, right? It's a big problem. Like, you can talk the past few years, you can talk with the best lawyers, best firms, whatever, and the answer is always, I don't know, I don't know, just do this, do that, don't do that. Like, again, in order for us to continue and scale and grow, we need some clarity. And of course, it's not easy. It's a complete different taxes, I would say. Crypto, it involves, like Robby was saying, involves a lot of things, and there is always the financial side of things attached. There's a token, there's volume, there's speculation. So I get it is difficult, but at the same time, they need to give us the tools in order to proceed. I was having a conversation with a BC back in Istanbul, and they invested in a few DeFi projects with American founders, right? And one of them, actually, they decided to completely shut down the project because they were very afraid that they will get pushed by SEC, by the government, and so on. And they were saying, like, I'm just building technology. I'm not like here to build some sort of laundering machine or something, right? So I think this is very important, and it's hard for a company that enters crypto and create their setup, and they always need to go to some weird offshore kind of setup, right? Why can't I have my company in my country, right? Yeah. I'm not doing anything shady. I'm just building tech in a new kind of industry, right? So definitely clarity is very important, and I hope we get to a good point in the next few years. So
yeah. We've got 20 seconds left. Just from left to right, is crypto winter coming to an end? Has it come to an end? And where do you see the price of Bitcoin this time next year, December 2024?
I would say yes, but I don't know anything, so don't take my words. But I would say yes. I think the dark times are kind of past, but we need to be careful, and I think things are already getting a bit too crazy, so let's calm down a bit. But yeah, I think especially next year will be very, very good. And I would recommend everyone to focus on the founders and projects that actually stayed here. And not only the projects, also companies, VCs that actually stayed the entire winter and actually built something meaningful. And don't get played, quote unquote, for the newcomers that they were not here in the dark time. So make sure you see the good ones.
I'll be quick. We're already over time. I think we see some signs of thaw maybe sometime, but don't. I would never think of myself that I could know the market, that I could foresee the market. Look, the market is unpredictable. The market moves how it moves. Could be pullbacks. Could be going further up. What's important is to be there. To be there is platform.
Robby?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the winter's come to an end, but if the first quarter was a 1 or a 2, I think maybe we're at a 5.
Yeah, so not investment advice. Next year, Bitcoin price, 120K US.
I'll be quoting you on that. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause. Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Gareth, excellent moderation.